Okay, so today we are going to talk about properties of rectangles, rhombuses. Usually they're called rhombi. This book calls it rhombuses, and squares. These are all special parallelograms. So because they are classified as parallelograms, all of these have the same properties as parallelograms plus other special ones. Okay, so the definition of a rectangle, so I'm going to abbreviate it, RECT. The definition of a rectangle, it is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. Okay, so we have 4 right angles, and because we have 4 right angles, some other special stuff also happens. The diagonals are now congruent . They were not congruent in just a parallelogram. So diagonals are congruent. The definition of a rhombus, it is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. So that means that all the sides are congruent, not just opposite sides. So with a rhombus, some other special things happen. The diagonals, see, are perpendicular, and the diagonals bisect each angle. If you remember, you're probably asking, well, don't they bisect each other? Well, yes, they still bisect each other because they are still a parallelogram. Then what happens when a rectangle and a rhombus combine is that you get a square. So a square is a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. So if there's 4 right angles, that means that all the angles are congruent. Then I have my diagonals. My diagonals are going to be congruent. So again, we are combining a rectangle and a rhombus. So that means that the diagonals are perpendicular. And it also takes on the diagonals bisect each other. And it also takes on the fact that they bisect each angle. So that means, I'm going to take some of this stuff out so you can see what I'm talking about. That this diagonal means that it splits this angle into equal parts. So if this was a right angle, now this is going to be 45 and 45. And that's going to be 45 and 45. Okay, so it creates a lot of special situations. Okay, let's go on to some examples. Okay, so if ABCD is a rectangle, then find X. When you are dealing with quadrilaterals, A, B, C, D, it has to be in that order. So I'm going to draw my picture. It doesn't matter where I start A, but I have to be consecutive. I cannot go A, B, and then jump all the way down here and do C, D. I either have to go all the way around this way or all the way around the other way. So A, B, C, and D. So that means that AC and BD would be the diagonals. I'm going to tell you that AC equals 5x and BD equals 30. Because AC is a diagonal and BD is a diagonal and it's a rectangle, then I know that the diagonals are congruent. So if they're congruent, they're equal, which means I can set them equal to each other. So 5x equals 30, therefore x would equal 6. So it's much like what we've done with parallelograms, but now you're going to be using more of those properties. Let's see. So if I have a rhombus, so I'm going to say that MNPQ is a rhombus. Find the measure of the numbered angles. I'm going to make this diagram a little bit bigger so I can squeeze my numbers in there. NPQ. So I'm going to make this one 35 degrees. So I have number 1, or excuse me, angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, and we will say angle 5. Okay, so I'm going to find the measures of those 5 angles if I'm only given the fact that this is 35 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, measure of angle 2, 3, 4, and 5. So with that information, I got to think about what all I know about a rhombus. Well, I know that a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular, and I know that diagonals bisect the angles. So if this is 35, that means this is 35. So angle 1 has to be 35 degrees. Angle 2 is at this intersection. Well, if one of these is a right angle, then all of them are right angles. So 2 is a right angle, which would be 90 degrees, and also 4 would be 90 degrees. So I'm just going to kind of pull this triangle out so you can see what I'm looking at. Here's my right angle, here's my 35, here would be angle M with that little 3 in there. Remember, these have to add up to 180, so if this is 35, then this is going to be 90 minus 35, which gives me 55 degrees. So 3 would have to be 55 degrees. Another thing that happens in a rhombus is that it creates 4 congruent right triangles. So if this is right, this is 35, which makes this 55. Diagonals are bisect the angles, so this is also 55. Right angle, which make this 35. So I can go all the way around because I have 4 congruent right triangles. So angle 5 is going to be 55 degrees. Let's see. Let's do, list the quadrilateral that have the given property. So I'm going to give you about 3 properties. Opposite sides are parallel. Diagonals are congruent. And we will do that opposite angles are congruent. And your choices are parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, and square. I want you to do these for an activity for tomorrow. So come to class with that done.